Hello, everybody, and welcome to this festive edition of the Two Saints Show with myself, Mark C, and my co-host, Mark H. Season's greetings to you all. How you doing, Mark?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Just want to say to all the listeners of the pod, Merry Christmas, and also our radio show, Merry Christmas as well. And I hope you're all looking after each other again. And apart from that, it's a bit of a difficult week for Saints on the pitch, I've got to say, mate.
Yeah, a little bit.
It's always heart-wheeling ahead when we do the predictions, but I think we all knew that Manchester City home and Arsenal away were going to be difficult fixtures. And to come out with 1 point, I suppose, probably isn't that bad. But let's hope for better in the next two fixtures that we're going to be previewing later on the show.
Well, and I think it shows how far we've come that we're disappointed we didn't end up with 2 points or more.
Yeah.
To be fair. So anyway, just let everyone know, coming up in the first half today, we have Two Saints review of Saints 0, Man City 1, and we also have Saints in the Press. So we've got a few short words for you, and when we've done those, we'll be straight back, and we'll start with our review of Saints 0, Saints 0, Man City 1.
Fiesta FM Southampton 95.0 FM.
Disclaimer. The following program contains language, views and opinions that may be unsuitable for some listeners. This is not necessarily a view or judgment of Fiesta FM, its management, other hosts or advertisers. The show is for entertainment purpose only and is not intended to defame, insult or offend anybody in any shape or form whatsoever. Listeners are advised to exercise caution in their own environment when listening to the show.
It's the two Marks, C and H, on the Two Saints Show, Fiesta 95 FM. It's Mark C and Mark H. Mark my word, they're here with everything in the Two Saints Show.
Right, welcome back. So, the Two Saints review of Saints 0, Man City 1. City hold off Saints. Ralph Hasenhüttl, we gave our maximum. Nathan Teller, we should not be disappointed. So, City held off Saints. Yeah, it was kind of a bit of a rearguard action in the end for them, Mark, wasn't it, in the end?
It was. I mean, I think the thing is City started really well, and I felt we sort of got caught out a little bit. They had the disallowed goal, offside goal, and it was rightly called. And then obviously not long after that, Mark, it must have only been 2 minutes. And then obviously City scored their goal. Raheem Sterling.
It's literally a minute, I think, actually, looking at the commentary I was listening to.
Probably was. I'm trying to be a bit generous with my timings. But the thing I was going to say was, and kind of from there, Saints did the thing of old where, you go down, we come out and play. The difficulty, I think, was Mark, that really at the end of the day, even though, I think, you can allude to it that there was plenty of effort, plenty of endeavour. People were giving their all on the pitch. I would never question that on Saturday. But the one thing that I would say is even for all the attacking intent and everything else that went with that and people's commitment, because I have to say I take issue with a comment that you made in regards of quality. I still don't think there's enough quality in the side. I think the thing is we've got workman-like player. We've got one or two individuals that are quality, and then the rest of the team are workman-like individuals who are currently playing at their maximum, right? Because obviously Ralph has been able to spend time on one-on-one sessions, I would have thought, with them, and they've improved as a result.
Well, my point on quality was the fact that we have got some quality up front, but that quality only works if you provide them service, which, to be fair, was quite woefully in short supply, wasn't it, unfortunately, against City? And it's the second game in a row, really, we've not really cast out a lot of chances, isn't it? So, as much as you may have quality or players playing to their full potential, they can only realise that quality and potential if you give them the damn ball, can't they?
It's difficult. It's difficult when you see that much of the ball, because I mean, certainly in the second half, Southampton's seen a lot of the ball. And I'm one of the people, and he got man of the match for me, KWP. He was my man of the match because he was, at any given opportunity, he was marauding forward. I'm not exactly sure. I think Ryan Bertrand was more conservative in his approach. He wasn't getting forward as much. He was, as I see it, he was much more reluctant. Maybe he thought he'd get beat for pace or whatever.
Yeah, but he was certainly more defensive minded.
Yeah, sorry, defender, I'd say, this sort of our own half. Yeah. But having said that, Mark, you are right to say this, because the one thing I will say is plenty of endeavour, plenty of effort, plenty of trying to move forward. But I think in the analysis, we didn't really lay a glove on City. And I still go back to, I think there's an issue with us playing the top six sides, Yeah,
I agree with you. There's almost like a mental block, isn't there, like you've said?
Yeah, I just think they look at who's on the pitch, who they're playing, not necessarily who they're playing against, but the individuals they're playing against. And I just tend to think to myself, but you can't. The thing is, you can't afford to, go 1-0 down to City and then decide to come out and play. You've got to be playing against them while it's 0-0.
The thing is, as well, I think we've got a mental block about playing the top six or the big teams, and we also seem to have a mental block playing against 10 men, which we'll get to a bit later. But, it's very sort of, it mirrors it, doesn't it, in a way, which is quite ironic in a way. Right. Yeah, I definitely think there's some sort of a mental block there, and to be fair, football's as much about psychology as it is about what you do on the pitch. To be fair, which is something I think we both learned when Nigel Atkins was in charge.
Yeah.
The psychology side of the game that Nigel brought in at St Mary's made a big difference, didn't it? So, I think that goes hand in hand in the modern game as well, to be fair, as much as sports science does. So,
the mindset, there's no doubt about it. The mindset has to be correct. And it's not just against the sides, that you've got a chance against, which, I think that's where you've seen the significant improvement, because we've gone away to the likes of Burnley, right? And we've won games of football this season, right? But I still think that when it comes to quote unquote the big six, there is that mental block there.
Yeah, and I think Ralph's hit the nail right on the head, and he's pretty much said what I said, in the fact that Saints were actually quite brave. They had a lot of pressure, but we're lacking quality in the final third with the final pass and the final chance. And that was the problem. We have got the quality to trouble teams, but that quality was lacking on the day. So, I totally agree with that from Ralph's point of view.
See, I say we need added quality, man.
I think we probably do. But, when you do have the quality we've got at the moment, which is limited, I'll give you, it is limited quality, but we do have a little bit there. When we do have that quality, we have to make the most of it, because we're not like a Man City, we're not like a Man United or whatever. We haven't got a plethora of quality, so we've got to use what little quality we do have, and we have to maximise it. And against City, and obviously the game before that, we didn't really maximise our potential, did we? And that's the problem we've got, I think. The problem is we've got a very small amount of quality, and we've got to make that count. And I think in certain games, especially against City, we didn't make it count. It's a bit like the Big Bad Wolf. We huffed and we puffed all day long, but we couldn't blow the door down, could we?
I mean, it's ironic, because we don't want to go back to things in the sort of past week or so, but it's ironic. But then going into this game, I didn't hold out much hope of us getting a result anyway. So probably to keep it down to 1-0 is a result in itself. But then, Mark, having said that, we went away to Arsenal. Arsenal are they're still in complete disarray. As the result in the Carabao Cup showed, i.e. the League Cup, you got to say that even though it's been a fantastic start to the season, that was an opportunity that was knocking and was missed.
Absolutely. No, I agree with that. Yeah, and that obviously moves on to Arsenal. Yeah, I felt that there was an opportunity missed against City because I felt we could have got a draw from that. But the Arsenal game, definitely 10 men. Yeah, so I think that sums it all up quite nicely, actually, and also sums up the first section of the show for today. So we're going to take a short break, and then we'll be right back. And after that, we'll be doing Saints in the Press. The Two Saints Show, Fiesta 95 FM with Mark C and Mark H.
Fiesta 95 FM, The Two Saints Show. Right,
welcome back, everybody. Saints in the Press. Southampton women's fixture postponed. The Southampton FC women's fixture with Cheltenham Town in the National League South West was postponed, unfortunately, due to recent changes in the government's COVID guidelines. Sunday's fixture was postponed. Further details on the rearranged fixture will be announced in due course. Also, unfortunately, the under-18s were due to play West Ham on Saturday of last week, and that fixture was also postponed due to the fact there was a coronavirus situation at West Ham, sadly. So both those fixtures, unfortunately, were off, which is really disappointing. Anyway, moving on from those, Ralph Hasenhüttl said that he's ready to call on Ibrahima Diallo, his summer signing, and giving him a fast start for the club at Fulham on Boxing Day, with Oriol Romeu now suspended. The Spaniard picked up his fifth booking of the season in a 1-0 defeat to Man City on Saturday, and will now face a one-match ban. So it'd be interesting to see how that pans out, Mark.
Yeah, I mean, when I said the off sort of recording, but we knew this situation was coming. It was always going to happen. He was going to get suspended at some stage. This season, and unfortunately, it's at this point. The amnesty for yellow cards doesn't come into effect until August the 16th. So therefore, he's got to serve the one-match suspension. And like I said, the hope would be that Ralph and the coaches have been working with Diallo because they knew this situation was going to arise at some point during the season. And the hope would be for all Saints fans that Diallo's ready to grasp his opportunity.
Yeah, let's hope so. He's made 6 substitute appearances so far, the France under-21 international, and is obviously in line to replace Romeu next weekend. The common night in suspension, the boss said it's not surprising we had 2 6s with yellow cards on the pitch. You could feel them trying everything to keep the game going. It was a good game from them both. But now Ibrahima gets a chance to play, and it's good that we have him. So yeah, I'd certainly agree with Ralph on that one.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is the other thing to say is as it stands, he's the only real option. You've had Will Smallbone, who might have been an option there. He got injured early on in the season, and we haven't really seen him since. So he's the only logical, alternative that you've got coming in, either from the bench or in the current sort of first team squad.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, definitely. 100% agree with that. Yeah, and the thing is as well, it's interesting as well because obviously Oriol Romeu's been talked about how tweaking his diet over lockdown gave him a lot of food for thought. So it's interesting, obviously, off the back of Diallo's coming in. Romeu's obviously been in improved form this season, and he's putting it down to obviously his diet over lockdown and whatever. And to be fair, if you compare his diet to some of the juniors, then you can probably understand why he's not having issues with fitness and why he's probably been performing quite well, Mark, to be fair. I
mean, I think the thing as well is, as we'll learn about nutrition and things like that there, a change in diet can also help to prolong. It helps with fitness, but it can also help to prolong your career. And obviously, Oriol's at the stage where he's 29 years of age. I don't know how long he's planning to play for, but you would have thought that with the change in diet and everything else that's going on, it doesn't look as, let's say. I don't think chubby is the word I'm looking for with him, but the midriff looks a lot leaner. And that's more part of him really. But it'll be a big miss against Fulham on Saturday, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, regards to changing your diet and sort of looking at your fitness regimes and everything else. I mean, you and I both talked about it before. It proved what a difference a fitness regime can make and a diet can make. When you look at the way Danny Ings worked on his fitness, obviously he's injured at the moment, and that's by the by. But when he was working really hard on his fitness, it obviously paid off, didn't it? And with Romeu, he's worked on his diet, he's worked on his fitness quite clearly, and it's paid off. And he's in probably the best form he's been in for Saints, I think, for a while, Mark, to be fair. He's a good player, but now he's been very consistent.
Yeah, no, I think we can all safely say that in terms of Oriol's career at Southampton, he's definitely in the best form, since he's moved to Southampton. And the thing is we're probably now seeing why Chelsea spent the money that they spent bringing him to Stamford Bridge, because he's definitely, I wouldn't say it's a renaissance, he's not that old, but he's definitely in the form of his career at St Mary's, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely right. And that moves us on to the next story, which is Saints are set to tweak their transfer strategy. A lot of tweaking going on at St Mary's, Mark. Tweaking of strategy, tweaking of diet, tweaking of fitness. So make a few tweaks to the transfer strategy after the success of Theo Walcott, a signing that was way beyond the normal parameters that they set when signing a new player. Over the past 7 years, the transfer strategy has been fairly rigid. They look for a certain kind of player, ideally between the ages of 21 to 25, some experience, usually in a European league, talent, but yet to really develop it and hunger to succeed. But obviously, some of the more recent signings, Walcott definitely, it's more a case of more experience, isn't it? And a little bit more age.
Yeah, I mean, I think
something that worked well for Saints back in the 80s, Mark, funnily enough.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I would say is football kind of moves on. It was kind of, dare I say, I never compare eras. But there is a place, obviously, for having experience. And the point has been proved that if you're able to bring in somebody like a Theo Walcott, and more importantly, Mark, you're able to bring them in where it's not costing the earth. You've got to say that as well, because Southampton, the thing is what they're. I believe if you listen to what Ralph says and what the general just is from the club, they're basically saying that if a person, irrespective of age, is right for the club in terms of, maybe not having to pay too much of a transfer fee and maybe not paying exorbitant wages, then obviously that's a path they're going to look to go down. And the thing is I think we both know, as you've just said, but we both know that you can't really beat a blend of youth and experience. I think you need both. You need both, and
it can't be a coincidence, can it, that the season we finished second to Liverpool in the first division? It can't be a coincidence that team was made up of seasoned professionals, of a certain age, but with experience, and a mixture of youngsters, and that was one of the greatest teams we've had. So it can't be a coincidence, can it? It's a model that's worked before. Strangely enough.
Yeah, I mean the only thing that I would add to that would be that, I think. The thing is for the club, it's more about doing things kind of in the right way and within the financial constraints that it finds itself. Because the thing is I think with the changes with the transfers and everything else that's going on, I think that it's going to be more and more difficult for us as a club to sort of bring in that new talent. Not only that, the other argument would be that when you look at Southampton, the problem is as well, and we just highlighted it in the last article, right? Diallo's playing on Saturday. The thing is would Ralph not like the option of maybe having a more experienced head as an option?
I agree.
Because the thing is like, and don't get me wrong, I want to see all these players, but we've signed two players in the transfer window, Diallo and the Ghanaian centre back, right? And the thing is they will have to learn, right? And it's going to probably take them a season and a bit to learn in the Premier League. Whereas if you're able to bring in, say, a 29 or 28-year-old who has relative experience, who isn't going to cost you the earth, do what the manager wants to do, and you can afford him within the financial constraints of Southampton FC, then to me it's a no-brainer. Do it. It's the same thing with Theo Walcott. Now, don't get me wrong, I have my reservations about Theo, but the thing is, once I realised that we weren't paying the earth for him, because let's be honest, we would have been paying over £100,000 a week for him.
1,000 plus. Yeah,
exactly. And you sit there, but having understood that we're only paying something like around, 45 or something like that there,
45,000.
It's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer for the club to bring him in. And I see there's fans calling for the deal to be made permanent. Let's see about. All I'm going to say is let's see about that in the summer. But certainly, in terms of tweaking the strategy, I think it's right to do it. I really do.
Well, the thing is, you've got to move with the times. You've got to be flexible, haven't you? You can't just stick with a rigid transfer strategy, because we've seen in the past when the club have been quite rigid on things that it's backfired massively. And we've lost good players, and we've also lost the captain at one point as a result of the club being very rigid. We all famously remember Jose Font leaving, and that was down to the fact that obviously Les Reed was very rigid in regards to the contract that they were offering Font, wasn't he? Fonte obviously was quite evident that was feeling quite strongly that he had plenty to give, and the fact he's continued to play for Portugal and whatever since leaving Saints kind of proved that, didn't it? So I agree with you, they do need to be able to bend.
And while we've been doing what we've been doing, which is fair enough, Fonte's been playing in the Champions League, so because the argument was we don't want to give him 2 years, we want to give him a year because he's the perception was, although people never came out and said it, the legs is gone, and that was Les Reed's perception. I don't care what anybody says, but for the sake of another year, he probably would have, been at the club for a while longer.
But it's quite evident he could still be playing at the top of his game at the moment, Mark, to be fair. So definitely a serious error there, I'd say, definitely. So yeah, you've got to be flexible. And talking of being flexible, I wish the club would hurry up and get this one sorted out. Ryan Bertrand's come out and made it very clear he wants to stay at the club, and he wants to stay long term. He says he'd like to stay at the club beyond his playing days, and he still thinks he's got plenty of years left. I'll agree with him there. This is one of these Jose Font situations, obviously, developing. The fact that he wants to stay, he's only asking the club to give him kind of, probably what he feels he's worth, which is probably not, to be fair, an unfair comment for him to make. But the club needs to just give him the contract, don't they?
Right.
I don't understand in these situations why we just faff about, to be fair. I get that Ryan might be wanting a little bit more money or whatever, I don't know, but he seems quite happy where he is. It doesn't seem as though he's asking for the half. I don't understand sometimes the mentality of our club where they can't just go to Ryan, right, here's the contract, Okay, if he wants to stay, sort it out.
I had a little look at this, Mark, right? So Ryan's currently earning £72,000. Now, as far as I'm aware, the club have made an improved offer. If it was up to me, I wouldn't be paying him over the £100,000, right? I wouldn't be paying him it. I was surprised to see that Shane Long, whenever he signed his new contract, it was more or less on the same terms as his old contract. Now, I would have thought that there might have been room for to turn around and say, you're not going to be playing regularly in the first team, although you're a first team squad member. On that basis, would you be agreeable to a bit of a wage cut? But I suppose what I'm trying to get at is, Mark, is obviously he wants a decent payday, right? It probably won't be, it probably will be his last contract, because he's actually talking about hopefully being able to take up a coaching role at the club and sort of carry on the philosophies of some of the better managers. Certainly he mentions Ralph and one or two others. And I like the idea of it if he's prepared to commit. And my own thoughts are, a deal can be struck that's probably within the grasp of the club and something that Ryan would be happy with. I don't actually think a deal's a million miles away.
No, he's actually been asked himself, and he actually did say himself that when asked about it, I don't think it's too far away. It's in the club's hands, to be honest. So, there you go. It is in the club's hands, he said. And the thing is, he's had his share of critics, but it's important to point out he's been Mr. Consistent. I mean, very rarely has he put in a performance that's been below about 8 out of 10. So, he's been Mr. Consistent, really. He's had his share of critics. He's had the odd game here and there it's below par, but you won't find many strings of games where he's been below 8 out of 10, to be fair.
Man, I would still say at the end of the day, the yardstick for me is he's one of the best English left-backs in the Premier League.
And on that basis, give him the deal, Saints. Come on, get it sorted.
But the thing that worries me is just on another point, but we're not going to talk about it, is the Danny Ings situation, because that's gone eerily quiet.
Yes, it certainly has. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, he's got that hamstring injury at the moment, hasn't he? Which probably doesn't help matters. But, it'd be interesting to see what happens on that one. Anyway, we'll move on.
I think what it is, Mark, is that the club are planning to make an announcement probably on Christmas Day that they both sign new contracts, and that's the Christmas presents to all the Saints fans out there.
Well, make a change instead of some doom and gloom, wouldn't it? Be nice to be something positive. Come on, Saints, give us a Christmas present. Anyway, talking of Christmas and Christmas presents, it's Christmas week, and while it's going to be very different for most of us this year, yet very, very different, some things stay the same. There's still lots of football on. Sadly, not many fans will be able to watch the games, and even less now that obviously we've had the news that we've had this afternoon. Sadly, we're going into Tier 4 on Boxing Day. So anyway, coming up for you, there is a rundown of the games that are on and where you can watch them. So this is Saints festive fixtures. Boxing Day, Fulham versus Saints, 3 p.m. Sky Sports. Tuesday, December the 29th, Saints versus West Ham, 6 p.m. at Amazon Prime. Monday, January the 4th, Saints versus Liverpool, 8 p.m. Sky Sports. Obviously, subject to any further rule changes. Supporters would have been permitted, but obviously they're now not going to, following the news that came out today, unfortunately. So,
I just thought
most of us are going to be watching it on TV, sadly, everybody.
Yeah, I just thought, and it was quite apt, I just thought I would add that, Mark, as a reminder to people, that, even if you can't get to the game, which sadly now nobody can, that you can at least watch it if you're subscribing to those channels.
Absolutely right. There you go. So, there we go for everybody. So, we're just going to take a very short break now. And after that, coming up in the second half of the Two Saints show, we have other football news, Saints transfer news and gossip, Two Saints preview of Fulham versus Saints, and Saints versus West Ham. So, we'll be back very soon.
It's the Two Marks, C&H, on the Two Saints show, Fiesta 95 FM.
Welcome back, everybody. So, other football news. Finally, Wembley final moved from February to April in hope more fans can attend.
On at the end of the day, my take on it is it's a sensible move, because you don't want to be having any sort of showpiece final at Wembley without a crowd, and that's irrespective of people making money or anything, but. The powers that be, the Football League certainly wouldn't want to have their Showcase Cup final, played in an empty stadium. So I can understand why, they want to try and delay it to give it a maximum chance to sort of have some sort of supporters in there on the day. And hopefully, it's not looking clever at the minute, but hopefully that may be achievable in April.
Yeah, let's hope so. Keep our fingers crossed that'll happen. So we'll move on to the second headline we have for you guys. Jefferson Lerma, the Bournemouth midfielder, has been charged with a biting offence versus Sheffield Wednesday. Oh, okay, got a Bournemouth player who thinks he's Luis Suarez, is he?
I think the thing, when I seen the article and I read it, obviously this was an incident in Bournemouth's last league game, and the thing is. I'm beginning to wonder, is it a mentality thing of the South Americans? Because it seems to be every time I'm reading about a biting incident, it's either Central America or South America, and you're sort of a South American involved, and you sort of sit there and you think to yourself, why are you biting an opponent in the first instance? I get it if you're you've gone. Well, I don't actually get it. I'm trying to think, in what circumstance would you be biting an opponent? Any ideas, Mark?
Absolutely crazy.
Just absolutely baffled me. But obviously,
madness.
I would have thought that there's going to be appropriate action taken, and whether it's a man's innocent until he's proven guilty. So let's see what happens. But obviously, if he's proved guilty of the offence, does that mean to say that he's going to miss, a big chunk of the season? Because that would be a big miss for Bournemouth, given where they are in the table at the minute, and they're going well.
Yeah, I think it's a very silly thing to do, and to be fair, given the current climate, it's absolutely irresponsible, isn't it? It's one of the most irresponsible things you could do. This virus is going around, even footballers are getting it and contracting it, and he's going around biting people. Yeah, well done, Jefferson. That ain't going to spread it, is it? The club are saying they support him, and I get that, but I don't see how they really can on this one. I mean, he's banned rights, and there's not an awful lot you can say about it. But
it's very responsible.
Anyway, talking of people trying to be a little bit more responsible, but this is slightly worrying for obviously the fans of this club in question. Burnley takeover. Mohamed Al-Kashashi and Chris Farnow have pulled out of a potential deal. The Egyptian businessman Mohamed Al-Kashashi and solicitor Chris Farnow have pulled out of a potential deal to buy Burnley. The pair's bid was being considered by the Premier League along with a rival offer from ALK Capital, but there's not yet been any ratification. It's understood there's been no contact between Al-Kashashi, Farnow and Burnley chairman Mike Garlick for 6 weeks. ALK's is now the only bid on the table. So that's slightly worrying for Burnley fans, isn't it? And Sean Dyche will be spitting feathers and probably apoplectic, I would have thought.
He'll be livid he'd probably be livid, but he'd be disappointed, obviously, that the deal's not now happening by the looks of it. It's a bit of a choker for the Burnley fans as well, man. I mean, the thing is they're probably one of the last sort of clubs that's sort of run by, let's say, local businessmen or people who don't really have the financial clout. And the thing is with that having fallen by the wayside, are they going to be able to find another buyer? I mean, the thing is, on the flip side, I suppose, Burnley's had a bit of an upturn in results on the pitch, which is good news, if you're a Burnley fan. But in terms of the takeover, you just wonder whether they're actually going to find someone to take over the football club. I can't see it for a while myself.
I mean, let's hope it happens for their sake, but there we go. So, moving on from there, staying north of London, Nuno Espirito Santo. The FA have contacted the Wolves boss over criticism of referee Lee Mason. How dare he? Wolves boss Nuno Espirito Santo has been asked by the Football Association to explain his comments criticising referee Lee Mason. I don't think he needs to explain them because it's quite obvious what he meant. He said, the way in which he handles players worsens the flow of the game. Well, that doesn't require any explanation. It's there in black and white. They can't work that one out.
Can I just say, even though they've asked him for his comments, he came out today and reiterated what he said. He actually came out and said what he said twice. So there's no ambiguity there at all.
It makes me laugh because they're saying that this is the problem with the FA, right? There's too much bureaucratism. There's too much red tape. That's a big word. Too much red tape and everything, and all this other rubbish, right? The man was very clear in what he said. He's reiterated what he said, and then you hear the FA going, the FA will decide whether to act once it has received his observations. Well, you received his observations. Not only have you received them after the game, you've also received them again today. How clear do you want him to make it?
And I mean, all I'd say about it, Mark, is I think there's a degree of sympathy for me with Nuno, but at the same time, I've got to say, right, I'm beginning to think, is he maybe feeling a bit of the heat at the minute because Wolves seem to have lost their mojo slightly a little bit? I mean,
I'd agree with you.
Obviously, losing Ralph Jimenez was a body blow for them, and at the end of the day, he's everything to them. He's their talisman. It's a bit like Danny Ings, really, for us.
I agree.
So I'm trying to work out whether he's talking about the referee in a desperate attempt to sort of deflect any criticism against him. You know, because I think there is there's a certain minority of Wolves fans who are gathering at the gates for him. You know, so I just think it's a case of sort of watch this space. But certainly, you know, the thing is what I hope doesn't happen is he gets hit by a big fine by the FA, and then he gets censored. Where, you know, you've seen managers in the past come out and say no comment because basically the FA censored them. You know, because I want to hear what the managers have to say. You know, even if they agree with it or not.
The bottom line is, are they trying to sanitise the game, or do they want the game to be played in the right sort of spirit? And at the end of the day, why shouldn't you be able to question officials if you feel they've got it wrong? You know, we had two blatant penalties in the last Saints game that we felt should have been given that didn't even get referred to VAR. Damn right you should have the opportunity to challenge something that you think is wrong. If you feel there's an injustice in the world, you go out and challenge it in court, don't you? Why shouldn't you be able to challenge the FA if you think something's not right? You know, how much do they want to sanitise the game? And that's what worries me. I just think they're trying to sanitise the game too much.
But having said that, you know, just around this bit off from my point of view, you know, it's been a long-held belief, not just by managers, but by supporters, and I count myself as one of them, where, you know, I think that the TV should be able to interview a referee. If a referee wants to come out after, you know, it's totally up to him, but if a referee wants to come out after a game and explain some of his on the pitch decisions, I think it would make for much more of an interesting debate after games, I tell you, as well. But you know, I don't think we're going to see it somehow.
So we move on to news of the GOAT, as he's referred to by a lot of different people. Lionel Messi scored his 644th goal for Barcelona during their recent victory to break Pellé's record of the most goals for one club. Yeah, unfortunately, Lionel, Peter Crouch was quick to point out that his tally of 2 goals for 644 clubs still stands. But anyway, fantastic feat from Messi, you've got to say, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, my goodness, I mean, you're passing an icon, you know, the man, if you like.
To put that in perspective for anyone listening in order for somebody to beat that record, okay, you ready for this, everybody? The person in question, in order to beat Lionel Messi's record, would have to score 45 goals a season over the course of about 15 years. This is a record that's not likely to be beaten for quite some time.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is I'll be interested to see if that is beaten, because that shows that you have to sustain a certain level over a hell of a long period. I mean, some players don't even get 15 years in the game. Yeah. So. You know, it's an incredible defeat whenever you put it like that, Mark. It's funny, but when you said the GOAT, I thought we were going to start talking about Sean Goda.
Well, I'm sure we will. I'm sure we will one day, Mark. I think I remember he haunted us a couple of times when he played for Man City, if I'm not mistaken.
You know, I have to say, because you know I can be a bit cynical when it comes to modern era football, but that's a hell of an achievement by Lionel Messi.
Yeah, take a bow, sir. Take a bow, sir. That's all we can say to that. Will you probably go down as the greatest of all time, or if it's based on goals alone? Yeah, you probably will go down as one of the greatest of all time. You're probably in the world's top 3 at the moment, to be fair. So there we go. Anyway, moving on to some news. It is it's slightly sadder, actually. Football and dementia. A group of ex-players and politicians have called for an urgent review. Yeah, I think they certainly do. And obviously, Nobby Styles' son's come out in the last couple of days, Mark, and stated that he feels very strongly that his dad's death was down to heading in football.
It has, yes. His son.
Yeah, another member of the '66 World Cup squad who suffered from concussive blows to the head. Yeah. Best way of putting it, really.
The bit that you're referring to is his son John came out and basically has said that, you know, he holds dementia basically in the heading of the football, responsible for the death of his father. You know, it's very sad to read. But the thing is I know it's late in the day, but at least you know, steps are now being taken in the right direction. But it just should have happened so much quicker and so much sooner. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, how many more footballers have got to suffer until they actually decide to sit up and do something about it? So let's just hope this task force they're bringing in concussion subs and everything else, just get it sorted out. Stop faffing about with it. It's got to happen. It's got to happen now. It should have happened years ago. It's 15, 20 years too late, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Let's get on with it now. Stop faffing about and get on with it. Actions speak louder than words, don't they?
We spoke about it before where, you've got concussion substitutes in rugby league. And like I said, whenever we spoke about the article a few episodes back, the thing is, Mark, the concussion subs, is one that I don't have an issue with, because it's all about that. Something like that is certainly all about the players' welfare.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree with you there. All right, move on to the next story. Southampton could reignite interest in Demarai Gray. This is a player who first came to the Ronald Koeman was quite interested in recruiting him, Mark, I do believe.
Yeah, we if you remember the January window of 2015, we were interested in signing Demarai Gray and Sam Barham at the time. So it was basically a right back and a winger. So this one's nothing new. Now, whether it's true or not, I don't know. Whether someone's decided, because Leicester made the announcement that Demarai Gray was going to be made available. I'm not sure whether it's just journalists thinking, oh, well, at one point Southampton showed an interest in him. Are we going to... I mean, it has been suggested, Mark, and I'm going to throw this one at you, right? It's been suggested that maybe a swap deal with Leicester, right, and Nathan Redmond going the other way could be a possibility.
Do you know, I can think of a few Saints fans who'd probably go for that, actually, quite worryingly.
Well, that's been suggested, and you sort of sit there and you think, actually, that's not as crazy as it might sound.
Yeah, I've got to be honest, Demarai Gray is a little bit more consistent than Redders, to be fair. And to be fair, probably does what Nathan doesn't do quite as well, in the fact Gray's quite direct, actually, which is something that Nathan Redmond seems to have kind of forgotten about. It's something he's very good at, but when he's done it, but he doesn't do it very often, does he?
Yes, but before the deal's done, don't let on to the Leicester supporters if that's the case, because they probably think Nathan Redmond's the better player. But trust me, if we did a swap deal with them for Demarai Gray, I'd be quite happy.
You're right. So moving on to the news that Southampton are rivaling a pair of Premier League clubs for the signing of defender Jorge Fernandez, according to the Daily Mail. The centre-back stands at 6'4" and has been in fine form for Vitória Guimarães during 2020-21. His standout performances have earned him attention from Saints, Fulham and Newcastle United. Vitória are enjoying a solid season and currently sit 5th in the Portuguese top flight. Yeah, okay, probably fits the mould age-wise. Doesn't fit the mould price-wise, because I'd love to know where we're getting 16 million quid from, Mark, wouldn't you?
Yes, mate. As I say, my job's only to report what goes on during the week. I don't make the news. All I would say about that was, as soon as I read it, yes, we've got to cover it. But I think you and I both know that after signing Salisu in the summer, we're not going to be signing another centre back. I mean, maybe if it was the summer, because again, Saints don't. We've got to remember the Saints don't like doing business in the January if they can help it, because you want to keep a continuity together. Yep. So it would be more likely that if a deal was done in the summer for one of our centre halves, then maybe this bloke coming to St Mary's would be realistic. But to me, it's not happening. Not in the January window anyway.
Yeah, and I was going to say also, just for another one in there quickly that I read the other day, it's a good job we got Kyle Walker-Peters in, because a rumoured former Southampton target, Joachim Mahler, is apparently joining Atalanta in the next window for €10 million. So there we go. It's another one that got away, as they call it. That's if we were signing him in the first place, Mark, but I'm doubtful if we were. But anyway, he's going to Atalanta, apparently.
Let's be fair. We were definitely interested at one stage, Mark, and obviously I decided to throw that in there because, you were definitely at one point, I mean, I think at one point you were going to drive him from Belgium to St. Mary's, But
there was certainly a need there, wasn't there?
Thankfully, Kyle stepped in and solved that problem, and
Absolutely.
as I say, good luck to him. But he's a lad that's wanted to move for a while. Obviously, he's managed to force the hand. And if he gets his move to Atlanta, good luck to him.
Everybody, and then back with the Two Saints preview of Fulham versus Saints and Saints versus West Ham.
Fiesta 95 FM, the Two Saints Show. It's Mark C and Mark H. Mark my word, they're here with everything in the Two Saints Show.
Right, welcome back, everybody. So, the Two Saints preview of Fulham versus Saints and Saints versus West Ham. And starting out, last time out at Fulham, it was Fulham 3, Southampton 2. Mitrovic in the 33rd and 63rd minute, Charlotte in the 43rd minute. Half-time, it was 2-1 to Fulham. Stuart Armstrong in the 18th and 53rd minute for Saints brought it back to 2-2. Fulham end up winning 3-2. The assist on the day for Cedric Suarez for Saints and Le Marchand and Sessegnon for Fulham. And in the return fixture against them, it ended up Southampton 2, Fulham 0. Romeo scored in the 23rd minute and Ward-Prowse in the 40th minute. It was 2-0 Saints at half-time and ended up being 2-0 at full-time, and that was the 27th of February 2019. The Saints actually moved out of the Premier League relegation zone, and when they left Fulham 10 points from safety with a comfortable win at St Mary's on that occasion.
Correct.
So interesting how it pans out this time, Mark. But it's not going to be an easy one, to be fair, is it? I mean, Fulham are playing for their lives, obviously, and we know that can be notoriously difficult. I'm just looking at the sort of transfers as well that they've actually brought in. Anthony Knockaert for $10.5 million. Anthony Robinson from Wigan for $2 million. And then Harrison Reed from Southampton. We all know about Harrison, obviously. Undisclosed fee. Kenny Tete, undisclosed. Terence Kongolo, undisclosed. And Toysin Adarabioyo, undisclosed. And we're also aware they've brought in Mario Lemina as well. So they're quite well equipped, aren't they? And they do have a little bit of quality about them up front.
And they've got Mr. Lookman as well, who I think's one of their key players.
And David Reed, who obviously recently scored against Man United.
Yeah, I mean, all I would say is I think there's a good enough team there to be able to stay up in the Premier League. It's getting all the parts, all the same parts working together.
Absolutely.
I think is the issue there, Mark. There's definitely enough quality there for them to be able to stay in the Premier League. And if you're a Fulham fan, you'd be hoping that Scott Parker's going to do it for them. But just all I was going to say was obviously we have to be aware of Lookman as a threat. Thankfully Mitrovic, I mean, is he going to be playing on Boxing Day? Probably not, which is a good thing. I think the thing is it's just be aware of certain situations. But I think if we go out and we're on the, we keep saying in every podcast, we go out, we're on the front foot and we're positive. I'd like to think there'll only be one outcome. I mean, going into these fixtures, I had misgivings about the last two games because obviously again, it's the mental block thing. Top six sides, the big six sides, right? Now we're playing Fulham. Fulham are, let's be honest, Fulham are struggling for form. They're finding it in patches. Let's make sure that we go out on the front foot, don't get turned over. At least don't get turned over,
Absolutely right.
And the other thing is like, I would just say, my recollections of the last time we played them, which was 2 seasons ago, Stuart Armstrong's second goal in that game was an absolute world.
Stonker, wasn't it?
And we went 1-0 up from him as well, but we just, I don't know, it felt like there was a bit of a capitulation from us going on at Craven Cottage that night, or that day. And then, obviously, the home game, it was basically a walk in the park. I mean, they were in disarray. We weren't in great form ourselves going out.
That's very true.
The thing is the main thing about the 2 seasons ago, was that we were beating the teams around us that were expected to beat, certainly the teams below us, and obviously that helped in our fight to stay up that season.
Yeah, I think the important thing is go out to win, go out on the front foot, go out to win. But it's more important, just don't lose. If you can't win the game, just don't lose it, and that's the important thing at the moment, I think, and it just keeps the momentum going that we've had. Okay, our last unbeaten run came to an end after 3 games, but let's go on another run. We keep going on these little runs, let's do it again.
Yeah.
And talking of going on a run, let's hope we can follow up the Fulham game with what we do against West Ham. But for me, the Fulham game, I'm going to go cautious 2-1 to Saints.
I'm going to go 1-0 Saints.
Seems fair. Right, we'll move on now to the game coming up against West Ham. So last time out, Southampton 0, West Ham 1. It was half time was 0-1. The attendance was actually 27,000 at St Mary's Stadium. This was the 14th December 2019. West Ham United ran out 1-0 winners. Sebastian Haller in the 37th minute, I believe it was, Mark. Then the return fixture was, bear with me, Saturday the 29th of February 2020 at the London Stadium. Attendance of 59,000. West Ham beat us 3-1. It was an absolute trouncing, wasn't it? Michael Obafemi actually scored a rare goal for Saints.
It was.
Who's Michael Obafemi? Well, he does still play for us, everyone.
All I'm gonna say, Mark, is from my perspective on those 2 fixtures, we didn't deal with the physicality that West Ham bring the games to have a certain robustness about them, even when they're not playing particularly well, and we don't seem to handle the physicality. I'm hoping that we're a different beast now. I'm saying this cautiously because I'm not totally convinced that we're a different beast. And hopefully, given that they're a bit of a problem child side for us, we don't seem to be, certainly recently in results form, we don't seem to have fared very well against them. And, and they've had a few struggles in recent seasons against relegation themselves, but it just seems to be that every time we play them, we struggle to deal, as I say, with the physicality. But hopefully it's a different story this time round because, as I say, even when we played them, at that stadium, which I won't visit because I don't think it's a football stadium, but, I won't go to the Olympic Stadium. But having said that, I mean, yeah, again, in the return fixture, they showed that, again, it was down to the physicality and it was something that we couldn't deal with. But like I said, hopefully we are a different animal and we're able to deal with it this time round.
Yeah, just looking at the players they've got in there, haven't actually recruited that many, have they, to be fair? But the ones that stand out, Thomas Susek from Slavia Prague, 15 million, and Vladimir Kufal from Slavia Prague for 5 million. Frederick Alves from Silkeborg, undisclosed. Remy Coddington, Bournemouth, undisclosed. Michael Forbes, Dungannon Swiss, undisclosed. Disclosed. I think you probably know more about Michael Forbes than I would, Mark. But
about Michael Forbes, but what I was going to say,
inside Ben Rama in on loan, so that's pretty much it. Not a lot of recruitment, really. Not a lot of money spent, but they've got a pretty good core there already. And obviously, they do have one Michael Antonio amongst their ranks, don't they?
Yeah,
falling in our side whenever we play him normally.
Yeah. I mean, all I would say as well, mate, is I think actually that West Ham's going down an interesting route because it looks like they're cherry picking some of the better Slavia Prague players, and obviously you're not having to spend that much money. I mean, Souček's been a revelation for them. He's a goal scoring midfielder, and at the end of the day, the relatively they didn't pay that much money for him. I mean, seemingly his fellow compatriot who also came from Slavia Prague, the right back, I mean, he only cost something like 5 million quid. Now, admittedly, he is 28, but the thing is he's gone straight in there and he's slotted straight into that right back slot. He's made it, he made it its own up until he got injured, I think, 3 games ago. But he played every game. So obviously they have found a bit of a niche in the Czech Republic and Slavia Prague and buying some of their better players.
Absolutely right. Well, it's not a bad window of shopping. I mean, we've got Jan Bednarek from there, and we've all seen how well he's done, haven't we? So it's not a bad area to be shopping. It's quite a good area of the world to shop in, isn't it, to be fair? Poland, Czech Republic sort of area.
But, mate, we desperately owe West Ham at home. Really do.
I hate to say it, but I can actually see this being a 1-1 mark. I see it being a 1-1.
Funny enough, you didn't nick my result off me. I'm going for a 2-2, mate. I just don't see. The thing is even though we've improved loads, I think it's going to be a good yardstick for us. Because it's a side that we've struggled to beat recently. So again, over to you, Ralph. Prove us wrong. Do what you did against Burnley away. Get us 3 points against West Ham at home, because we haven't had it for about the last 3-4 seasons. Absolutely right.
Yeah, we're looking for a bit of good King Hassan, who last looked out when we beat Fulham and West Ham at the end of Christmas.
December.
So there we go. And that brings us really, really brilliantly to the end of today's festive Two Saints Show edition. Festive edition of the Two Saints Show even. So it's goodbye from myself and goodbye from my co-host, who I'll hand over to in a moment. It's just for me to say, just to remind you about our podcast, which is available via YouTube and Facebook. It's also available through lots of other platforms. If you check out the post that will be going up tomorrow, that will tell you where you can see all of those different links. So over to you, Mark.
All I want to say is Mark, this is obviously, it won't be our last recorded show of it might be the last recorded show of the year. So I just wanted to say thanks for putting up with us, and I'm glad that the friendship hasn't faced any strains through doing the podcast. I know we'll probably come close once in a while, but no, thanks, mate. And basically to the listeners, Merry Christmas, and try and enjoy it as best you can, but be sensible about what you're doing out there, and take care of each other.
Yeah,
and we'll see you next week. We will definitely see you next week for the New Year edition, or a seminal New Year edition, let's say. It might be recorded in December, but it's a New Year edition, people.
That's right. Yeah, and let's hope when we play Fulham and West Ham, we're all able to sit there and sing Simply Having a Wonderful Christmas Time. So goodbye, everybody. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you again soon on the offside. Tune in again next week when the Two Saints go marching in again. Bye for now.